All right, so I had this really fun idea to pretty much do photo reviews. So I had some people send me some pictures, or I posted really on TikTok, and they posted photos on there, and we're going to review them. So I have a couple photos picked out, and we're going to talk about them, and I'm going to give you some advice on how I think we can improve it, if that's even possible. So like, we'll figure that out. So the first one I have here is from Kate. All right, so the first photo I have here is from Kate, and I really like the colors in this photo. It's giving very like film Portra 800 Kodak Gold kind of vibes, but I think there are some things that we can still work on to improve on it. The thing is, there's a lot going on here, and I feel like our eyes don't really know where to look, whether it's the beach down in the corner or it's the city skyscrapers up in the top. But there's a lot of cool, I like all the, how you can tell there's all these people like swimming. It's a lot of people. And just the colors are very vibrant, to the point where it's like you have these like teal, light blue umbrellas to the dark blue umbrellas. And even this like green construction, while it's kind of like ugly, the construction, the green still gives that color a pop. What I would maybe recommend, trying to find your subject. Because again, I feel like the towers and the beach are like almost competing with each other. And whether you wanted to focus on like the towers, you can just take like a radial mask or a linear mask and just kind of mask the bottom down, and it'll kind of bring your eyes towards the towers, or vice versa with the beach if you want that to be your subject. I will also just kind of point out at the bottom, you can see this like windowsill, I'm guessing. So even just like a little crop to clean that up would help a lot. But yeah, overall, I really like this picture. All right, so for the next photo, it's also from Kate. So this one here is really cool. I love the umbrellas, and again, I really like your colors. I think your colors are just spot on. What I would say is, the thing I would work on the most is that I don't know what the subject is, again. And that's the same thing I said with the last one, but here I feel like rather than the towers and the beach competing, you have the umbrellas and then these people like this cart person here competing. Because I feel like both want to be the subject, but the umbrellas are just the brightest part of your image, so your eyes are just naturally going to that. And then your subject is just so far away, if it is the cart, to the point where your eyes are kind of fighting on where to look. You almost don't even realize that the person in the cart is there, because the first thing you see is the umbrellas. What I would recommend with that is, again, masking. So going into like Adobe Lightroom, and you can put, let's say if the cart is our subject, right? You can do a radial mask, which is like a circle. You just put that right over the cart, and you can brighten it up a little bit. I wouldn't do too crazy, because you don't want it to be noticeable. You want it to be not noticeable. That's the thing about editing, is you shouldn't notice it. So if you can do a very subtle, like bring that up, you can also darken the sidewalk here and even the sides, and that'll help bring your eyes forward to the point where it's kind of just like centers into the frame. And that's my recommendation in terms of improving this picture here. Because again, I don't know if the umbrellas are the subject or they are. Reason why it's competing is like the umbrellas are your brightest part of the image, and then the umbrella with the cart and all that stuff is in the center of the frame. So another way you can do that, if let's say the umbrellas were your focus, is you just gotta get lower and then kind of shoot up a little bit more, and then it'll kind of like take this, right? You're shooting it kind of like here. If you were to shoot up like this, the umbrellas are gonna go more down like that. So that's what I recommend. But yeah, overall, good photo. I really like the colors. So I have this photo here from Allison. First off, I really, really love your colors. Again, it's very true to color, which I really like. And it's just very pretty. You don't see a lot of Western desert, like portrait photos or wedding photos that are really just like super pretty, because I feel like it's always like the Pacific Northwest or Scotland or Ireland or something like that. Some like crazy location, but like this could be like my grandma's backyard because she lives in West Texas. With that being said, I'm noticing some stuff on the side which makes it feel like you might be using a filter of some kind. or this could just be TikTok quality. So if you're not using a filter, disregard everything I'm about to say. If you are using a filter, just be mindful with it. I love filters. I literally have them all the time. But it's very soft here, which on the sides works. And it kind of creates this like radial blur in the center of the frame, which helps your eyes draw to that. Now, again, TikTok quality is not the best. So with that being said, they don't look super sharp. I feel like when I zoom out, the sharpest part of the image is actually like this rock over here, which could be strange. So I don't know if like it was a soft focus. Again, this could just be a filter, or this could just be TikTok quality really sucks, because that's where I got all these pictures from. So that is that. Now, again, we're going to disregard all of that and just talk about the photo itself, because I'm going to blame TikTok. The actual picture I really like. The pose is solid. I just think we can like tweak it a little to make it perfect. So the way that you have the bride kind of looking, she's kind of like looking off to the side, and it's kind of like looking down, which creates this like double chin on her. And we don't want that. So what I'd recommend is have the groom sit nice and tall to kind of bring that posture up rather than bring him coming down. So if he sits nice and tall, he can kind of go up, and then she can like look up at him, and then it'll extenuate her jawline rather than crushing it and giving her that double chin, if that makes sense. So, and it'll make it a little more flattering on him, make it seem like a little more powerful with him. Also, I would say give his legs something to do, whether it's, bringing one all the way out, bringing one in. They kind of just feel like they're plopped there. So that's what I recommend. This is a really, really pretty photo. Like if I had this photo for like my wedding photos, I'd be like, oh my God, this is stunning. But that's just like the little tweak, is just to try to get rid of that double chin, have her look up at him rather than having her look down at nothing. Great photo. All right. So I have this next photo here. It's going to be from Devious Exposures. And right off the back, I'm going to say I don't do car photos, but I'm still going to give you my best opinion on this picture. First thing, it's really cool. The Mustang with the flames, it's really cool. And I like it. Now, one thing I have to say, this is a very perfect image. Like this Mustang is perfect in a sense. Like there's no scratches. It's very clean, which almost makes it give this look of AI. And I'm not saying that you did it with AI. Frankly, if I had to take a guess, this would be more of a composite, or it's just a long exposure. That would be my assumption. But I could see how some other people, with it being just everywhere, be like, oh, that's just AI. Now, with that being said, I do like this picture. You can read the Michelin on there. You can see the Cobra emblem for the Mustang. And overall, like you have this, which I'm guessing is like an Instagram handle. You can't really see it. But again, TikTok quality, I just don't think is that great. So you probably see it really sharp with the actual picture. What I would probably say is the flames are cool, but they're very lopsided. Like they're very heavy on the right side of the frame compared to the left side of the frame. And I think if we were to balance it out, it'd be cool. Honestly, I feel like even just having the flames just at the bottom would really, really work. And then treat it as like a less is more kind of thing. Because there's just so much going on. It's a little overwhelming. And then when you look at it longer, you're like, it's very lopsided on the right side of the frame, which is also where the back side of the car is. Where it's like, even if it was flipped, like that would kind of help it out. Because it's the most interesting part of the car is like the front. Compared to the back, and if that was, changing that angle might have helped. Or again, just balancing it, I think would work. Because you have the car perfectly like symmetrical in frame, but then everything else is asymmetrical. Whether it's like, you have this big fire thing at the right side of the frame, and then this is just little fire puff on the left side of the frame. And again, just working on that balance, I think would go a long way and just overall clean this image up a lot. I do think in this scenario, like less is more, because it's really cool, but at a certain time, there's just so much going on. if that makes sense. All right, so now we're going to talk about this photo here from McKinley G Photography. And I'm going to be honest, this photo took me a very, very long time to find out what I was looking at. The reason being is I'm looking here at the center of the frame, and I thought it was like this like cavern, just because of all the like twists and the turns. I thought I was looking at a cavern, but I couldn't tell what was on the outside. Like I thought it was nighttime. And then I realized it was people. Now, that could be a fault of me rather than you, because now that I see it, I can't unsee it. Like, see the people, I can't unsee the people. I really like this. I would almost suggest, if I had to give a suggestion, is where your lighting is, it's very much on just like the right side of the frame, and it's hitting her neck really strong. And then not so much on like his side of the frame. What I would maybe even suggest trying is seeing if you were to move that light directly in the middle, how would that look? It might make it better. It might make it worse, genuinely. One thing else I'm noticing is I just see the back of his tie. So I would try to clean that up, even if it's just one of those things like, hey, let's do that again. Or honestly, if you were to go and like take that little like tags, the tag is the most noticeable part. If you were to take that tag and like content aware fill or genitive fill, like get rid of the tag so it's less distracting, and then you just see the tie and you don't think much about it. So another thing that I'm noticing is that like I'm assuming this is a bride and a groom, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm going that really just based on the boutonniere, but that could also be a prom photo. It could be homecoming. It could be any kind of formal event where he just has flowers in his pocket. But I'm going to assume it's a bride and a groom. Again, I do like this photo. And like TikTok quality really doesn't help, because there's some things where it's just like, quality looks like you might have cropped a lot to get this picture. Like you might have had a wider shot. And then he said, well, what if I just zoomed all the way in? When you do that, you do lose a bit of quality, if that was the case. But again, we're going to blame everything today on TikTok because the quality is just not that great. All right, cool. So this photo is going to be done by Snaps by Olaf, which is, a fun name. Very simple, like street photography, landscape kind of thing. And overall, I do like this picture. I think having this like red statue essentially be like your weenie for the photo or your icon is really nice. I like that we're almost using this as like a leading line with the bridge. What I would almost suggest, I don't know the scene, I don't know where this is. What I would almost suggest is maybe taking 2 to 3, 4, 5 steps back. Reason being is I see this building right here. So this building, if we step back, you might see more in frame. And if this building is longer, you can use that also as a leading line. So they can almost create like a pair of lines. So for instance, let's say I'm the subject and we'd have one line going like here and then one line going like here is essentially, right? Yeah, like that. And then they would both be kind of framing your subject or your icon, which would be a really cool way to kind of go about doing that, using those leading lines and really just pull you into that moment. With that being said, I don't know the scene. That building might end right there and that's it. But think about that when you're shooting. What are ways that I can make the subject interesting, whether that's utilizing leading lines or using foreground elements or framing elements. All of those will help a lot when it comes to just taking pictures of stuff like this. All right, so this next photo I have here is from A Boog's Life. Pretty cool picture. I've seen, I think, a version of this castle too many of times. I'm assuming this is over at Tokyo Disneyland with their castle. Reason being is I can just tell that this is not Magic Kingdom. For people who don't know, Magic Kingdom and Tokyo Disneyland have pretty much identical castles. Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World in Orlando, they've changed the color scheme, but the foreground elements, this is not Disney World. So that's the first thing I noticed. This is a Disneyland photo or Tokyo Disneyland picture. Little nerdy moment there. I really like this. I like how we're using foreground elements in the frame. What I would maybe suggest here is moving a little bit to your left and kind of have this kind of be the center and see if you can have that almost framed directly to the castle rather than having it go off to the castle, if that makes sense. So rather than like straight on, like if you have it like that, but frankly, like the way the flowers are, they're kind of more like that, if that makes sense. Other thing I would do is I can tell you we did a sky replacement here. Reason being is if you look like right here, for instance, your blues don't match. Here we have a little bit darker blue and then we have a very lighter blue here. My assumption here is, honestly, we may have not done a sky replacement. We may have just darkened the sky. With this castle, as someone who's taken photos of the Orlando version a ton, these spires will really mess up with your editing. So just, you know, if you did a sky mask and then you just darkened it a little bit, which is I think what we did. Actually, I don't think we did a sky replacement. If you just darken a little, go back in with a brush and then just kind of paint in these little smaller crevices. That way it all blends together. Another thing that I'm kind of noticing here is your spires here are kind of blending in. And I don't know if that's the mask as well, kind of messing with that. This castle is very tricky. And you could also tell, like right here, again, the colors just don't match. One's a little brighter than the other, which then makes it pop out. So just be mindful of that. Overall, like, I really like the flowers in the foreground. If we could straighten it up, that'd be really cool. But even how they are, it fills the frame nicely. I would say the big thing is just the sky. That was the first thing that I noticed. So I would work on that. But overall, it's a really cool photo. I'm jealous that you went to Tokyo Disney because that's really cool. Never been. Would love to go, but overall, really great photo. All right, so for this next photo, I already know what it is. And I'm just going to say, I hate you, Valentino. This is me on my birthday. We went to Animal Kingdom in Orlando. And Valentino's like, let me get this shot. And he took this picture and I hate it. Terrible photo, Valentino. You should sell all your cameras to me and I will buy your Mamiya for free. Thank you. But if you guys enjoy this like photo review thing, let me know. We'll try to do more. I'm also going to say I'm not doing it on TikTok anymore. So I'm going to put a little email on the screen that you guys can just email directly with some photos. Give me your like handle that you want me to share with it and some context of the photo would be great. That way I can actually see higher quality stuff. So we're not being like, hey, maybe this is TikTok, maybe this isn't TikTok. And give you like a nice breakdown on that picture. But hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, bye.